I was born with epilepsy at the age of 5 and had a very chronic case. Life was like a roller coaster, and I had a very difficult time throughout my entire life. Now I look at everybody here, we all have a story. Everybody has a story. And I tried very hard throughout my years to live the dream I had in my head. I had this great dream of being a successful person, and I worked in New York City, and I wanted to be this, I wanted to work and become successful and do this and that and the other thing. I tried very hard. Even in college, I had struggled with my epilepsy. I had numerous seizures, and I didn't even know if I was going to be able to graduate college. I had a lot of people come out of the woodwork to help me, and that was big. People who didn't even know me came out to help me. And I remember one day I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I just don't know. I want to so bad, but I don't know if I can actually live the life I really want to live. So I wrote a letter to the Epilepsy Foundation in Washington, D.C., and I said, please publish my article. How do people cope with epilepsy? How do you have a disorder or a disease, something that interferes with your life on a daily basis? How do you get through it? I got 300 to 400 letters from all over the United States and Canada, people sharing their stories, sharing how they cope with their disabilities. And I was so inspired. For the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't alone. For years, I hid my disorder because I didn't want to be stigmatized. I didn't want people to look at me and say, that's the girl that has epilepsy, she can't do it. And when all those people reached out to me, I realized I am not alone. There are people here just like me. I have a chance in this world. I can be the person I want to be. And I graduated college, and I said, one day I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to help others. I took the information they gave me, all their advice, and I created a regimen for myself, and it worked. And then one day, I kept writing and putting it aside, and I got hired by NBC, and I was working the lifelines. That girl's dream had come true, I thought, and I was working for these TV shows, and I was like living the life. And then one day I was in Rockefeller Center, and I felt an aura, and I looked around, and if anyone's not familiar with New York City, in Rockefeller Center, there's just a big hallway, there's nowhere to hide. And I said, oh gosh, what's gonna happen? And I collapsed on the floor. I was awake, but I couldn't move. And then an executive stepped over me and kept walking. And I couldn't believe that he didn't help to stop me. But I realized that not everybody in the world is caring. Not everybody in the world really wants to change the world. And I thought about all the people that have come out of the woodwork to help me, and I said, I want to be one of those people. And I walked out of there with my head up high because 30 minutes later I was fired from my job. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I will be a success. And that's what I kept saying to myself. And I left, and I started working for others, and I met an herbalist. And he said, I need a lot of research on holistic living. And I said, I'll do it. So I started learning about natural healing. I started learning about how to heal the body naturally, how to change your life, how to incorporate nutrition, sleeping, supplements, eating the right foods, everything. So I started working on myself, and my seizures started to rapidly decrease. And I realized that this was a sign. And then my husband, who I've been with since English class, had said to me, would you finish that damn book you started already? So I listened to his advice and I published the book. And immediately, it became a bestseller. It was called Epilepsy, You're Not Alone, from a patient's perspective on how to cope with epilepsy. And then one day I got an email, and someone wrote to me, and they said, I found your book in Barnes & Nobles, and I just want to say thank you, because I was on the verge of suicide, and I'm following your regimen, and now I have a reason to live. And it was that moment that I realized the power and the wisdom of words can be so powerful because it can change people's lives. And I realized every time I spoke to someone, I always think for a second on how I'm going to say something, how I'm going to rephrase to each individual. Because what we say to other people can change people's lives. The stories we tell, just a phrase, 3 words of a little story we share with somebody can impact that person's life forever. I wanted to be one of those people. So I dedicated my life to helping others. And every time I tried to do something a little bit different, I always got geared back into a different pathway. And that pathway was sharing my story, because I tried to do other things, because emotionally, I'll tell you, I was in pain. I felt like I had this much potential, and my epilepsy only let me do this much. So emotionally, it really affected me. And physically, with all the seizures, I can't tell you how many bones I broke and how much injuries I incurred, but I wasn't going to give up. And then my seizures got better, and I kept going down that pathway where I kept getting opportunities to share my story. And then I started wanting to do speaking events, and I started to do speaking events, and then all of a sudden, I was in an accident, 3-second accident. I lost the mobility of my arms. Couldn't use them for 4 years. But my friend, who was a podcaster, said, "Stacey, just share your story on a podcast. Let the world hear you. You're in an audience with a small group of people or an auditorium, but if you're on a podcast, the world can hear you." And at first I wasn't, I was like, I don't know. And then finally I listened to him. And I based it on self-improvement, because I realized that if our mental health isn't good, it affects our physical health. 100% of stress alone can cause illness. So if our mental health is interfered with, then our physical health is interfered. And then spiritually, we can't focus and have our full potential when it comes to spirituality. And if those 3 things aren't aligned, then when you go to work and you're doing what you love, you don't have the focus and the clarity to be at full potential that you're capable of becoming. And then you bring it home, and I'm sure we've all done this many times, when we know we're not being our best that we could be, we come home sometimes and we pick on the people we love because they're the only ones there and we know we can get away with it. So I created a podcast that covers all those different areas. And I would have people with all different experiences and life stories, and they would share their stories and share their experiences on how they overcome certain things in life, and the wisdom and knowledge that they attained, they share on my podcast. And I want to invite all of you today, and I'll be here tomorrow, and I'll be here early Monday morning, to come and share with me. I'd like to record each and every one of you and listen. I want to hear your stories, your testimonials on how the emotional code, how the body code has changed your life. Because for me, positive thinking, spirituality, and energy healing has been one of the biggest components that has helped me get through my epilepsy, get through my difficulties in life, get through anything that I had that was giving me stress or problems. I went to energy healing, I went to spiritual healing, I used the chakra bowls, I meditated, did yoga. All those things had a humongous impact in my life. And I want to know about each and every one of you, because I believe your stories can help other people's lives. And that's why I do what I do, because I want other people to know that we can overcome crisis, that we can overcome the obstacles in our life and we become our full potential in life. Because everybody can do anything. We don't have to get stuck. And I believe that energy healing plays a huge part in the process of living life and overcoming anything. Anything. I'd like to thank all of you for giving me this time to share my story. And I just want to say that I'm grateful for Dr. Bradley, and I'm grateful for all of you for letting me share this story with you. And I have to say, I don't know you, but I love you all. Thank you so much.